How's it going, everybody? It's Parallax Abstraction, and this is Retro Flashback, showcasing gaming's roots for a new generation. So yeah, I got a twofer for you guys today, actually. So this is one of two videos that have gone up, and well, you may notice they're a little bit different from each other, but also kind of the same in some ways. Yes, indeed. So, Carmageddon Reincarnation just came out, which was the Kickstarter-funded spiritual successor to the game that we're looking at today, or at least the first game in a series that inspired that one. Full disclosure, I did back the Carmageddon Reincarnation Kickstarter, and the other video is talking about that, but I figured it made sense at the same time to show, well, the roots of this series, because that's kind of what I do around here, isn't it? So yeah, we are taking a look at the original Carmageddon. So this came out originally in 1997 for DOS and later came out for Windows. It also came out on a bunch of other platforms, PlayStation, the Nintendo 64, and the Game Boy Color, if you can believe it. I can't imagine what this was like there. Pretty much every version except the PC one was panned. They were all pretty bad adaptations. If you can believe it, this version of the game also even came out on iOS and Android a couple of years ago, which again, I don't know how you play this with a touchscreen, but hey, why not? And, well, I really have a fond reverence from this series. I played this game a lot in my youth. And as car combat games go, especially from this era, it's pretty darn impressive, some of the things it did. So I wanted to talk about that. So yeah, this game was developed by a company called Stainless Games, which is based on the Isle of Wight in the UK. And they're still around today. They actually did Carmageddon Reincarnation after buying the rights back to Square Enix, who a few years ago acquired Eidos, which was merged into by Sales Curve Interactive, which was the company who originally put this out back in the 90s. And Stainless has done a whole bunch of things. They did this game, they did its sequel, Carmageddon 2, which a lot of people like, but I wasn't as fond of as this one. And there was also a third game in this series called Carmageddon TDR 2000, which was not done by them. It was done by a company called Taurus Games. And TDR 2000 is generally considered the redheaded stepchild of this series. It's considered pretty terrible, and yeah, it kind of is. So what's the idea of this? Well, this is a car combat game. Now, when you think of car combat games from the 90s, one of the first things that may come to mind is Twisted Metal. This shares a little bit of DNA with that, but not much, to be honest with you. And what I really like about this particular title, and this series in general, is the way it blends a bunch of different systems together simultaneously, and allows you to sort of approach things in your own way in many cases, which is one of the things I really like. So we're going to take a look at that here. So I have a profile on here already. I've only done one race, so I haven't gotten in too far, but I'm going to show you the basics of how this game works. So, yeah, so I'm on the second track here, which is Coastal Carnage, but there's a whole bunch of different ones on here. So Main Street is the first one. This game has a very puerile teenager sense of humor, which maybe hasn't aged super well, but as I was a teenager when this game came out, I, you know, very much enjoyed it in a funny kind of way. But you see here, so you've also got Fridge Racer, get it? Yeah. And as you see, there's a bunch of different other races here that I can't play right now. So you unlock these based on your rank. And you can see here, my rank is only 98 right now. Your rank goes up as you progress and earn stuff. It was a very rudimentary progression system that this game used. So we're going to go into that here. So you have the ability to buy parts for your car and indeed to get new cars if you want. You actually earn money by winning races, and there's a variety of different ways to increase your money stocks, which I'm going to show you in a little while here. But as you can see, I've won a race here, and I've only got 33,000 credits. One upgrade to one section is 125 grand, so it takes a little bit of work. There's some grinding involved in this, to be sure. So you've got three categories. You got your armor, which is pretty self-explanatory, helps defend you. You got your power, which is stuff like your engine, makes you go faster. And you got offensive, which is stuff that you put on the outside of your car that basically makes you do more damage when you hit dudes, which is one of the various different ways you can win this. And you can also change your car if you want. I have no other cars right now. This is the one you start with. There's a variety of different cars in this that kind of play differently and look different, and it's kind of cool. But let's get this sucker rolling here. So I'm going to show you what the basics of this is here. So, by the way, that stuttering you're hearing and such like that, yeah, that's the emulation. I'm playing, this game is available from GOG.com as well as on Steam, and it is a DOS game running in the DOSBox emulator, and it's not perfect. It's pretty good. I'm running actually the 3DFX enhanced version of this game. 3DFX is one of the very first 3D accelerator companies back in the day, and this game had support for it. So I'm running that version of it, but things like music stutter and that definitely happens as well.
5, 4,
so here we go.
3, 2, 1.
Now, may look like a pretty standard racing game, yeah? Well, it can be, but it can actually be one of 3 different kinds of games, and that's where Carmageddon really stands apart from the pack. Well, number one, as you're going to see right here, this sucker is very gory. Yeah. So this game, when it came out, was actually censored in both Germany and the UK, which is rather funny given that the UK is where it was made, or at least part of the UK. And the reason for that was, yeah, well, all the gore. In those territories, they were required to replace the pedestrians with either zombies or robots, so that it didn't look like you were mowing over innocent pedestrians, which is totally what you're doing, and you totally get rewarded for it. I mean, this stuff looks downright, you know, quaint by today's standards of some of the things you see in even like a modern military shooter, right? But yeah, it's definitely it was definitely very controversial at the time, in the same way that Mortal Kombat was controversial. You know, think of the children and all that crap. We all know violent video games don't cause violence, but that was not something that was 100% certain back in the day. So yeah, so you're going to notice that about this game, but you may notice that I'm doing stuff, kind of a variety of different things here. Whoops, that's the wrong button. So, what's cool about this game is that there's 3 different ways to win. So, here's the map screen, which I brought up here. Now, you can see we got all those numbers, and one of them is blinking, right? So, yeah, if you can play this game one of 3 different ways. You can play it like a straight-up racing game if you want, or you can play it as a sort of demolition derby game, or you can go really all out and basically try to murder all the pedestrians. And that's what's really cool about this game. So you can do the checkpoints if you want, and just go through that way. Or if you manage to wreck all your other opponents, just simply by eliminating the field, you'll win that way. Or if you want to be kind of insane, you can actually win a race by killing all of the pedestrians on the map. Now, how hard is that? Well, see up in the right there, where it says 16 of 229 kills? Yeah. On this map, there are 229 different pedestrians, and that includes things like the cows, by the way. So you have to kill every one of those. You have to do it without running out of time. And, oh yeah, you don't know where they are, because they don't show up on the map. Yeah. That's for the pretty much hardcore score attack types. But this is what is cool, is you have the option to do things any way you want, and you can approach stuff in any way. So you see across the top there, we've got a timer going. You also see we have a profit number there, so essentially a score, right? Well, as you see here, by running over cows and pedestrians, and in addition to that, in smashing into your opponents, wrecking your opponents, and running checkpoints, you earn both money and time. So you may think of some older arcade racing games like Outrun or the like, where you had a time limit and the thing that increased the timer was getting through the checkpoints on time. So you can do that here, but there's a variety of different ways that you can approach this in order to earn your time and your money. So you obviously want to keep doing this stuff, so you can kind of mix and match. You can, if you want to try to do a race legit, but you don't want to run out of time, you want to run some people over along the way. Or if you see an opponent in your path, you want to run into them a little bit and do some damage along the way. And you can sort of keep your time and money built up like that. So what's the point of money? Well, money, obviously you need that in order to buy upgrades later down the line, but you also need it for this. Nope, you actually can't see that because I'm not hurt. Derp. So yeah, one of the things in this game is that your car does take damage as well. So you can see in the bottom right there, when I landed there, a whole bunch of stuff is blinking now. That is actually functional. So taking damage to your car will actually... You bugger. Ran into me right after I recovered. Taking damage to your car will actually impact its ability to drive, to handle properly, to go fast, to do things like that. But the cool thing about this is you can repair in real time. All you got to do is hold down the backspace key, and as you can see there, it will actually deduct money in order to repair your car. And you can only do this to a certain degree, obviously, because you want to minimize that, because... You get off of me, you brother! You want to minimize that because you obviously want to have as much money left at the end of the race, because that's what's going to allow you to buy the upgrades. But you earn more money, just like you earn more time, by running people over, by running into other drivers, other things like that. and you want to try to maximize that, but you can repair in real time. Even if your car gets completely destroyed, you can repair it if you need to. In addition to that, you can also recover your car. You've already seen me do it a couple of times. If you get wiped out or flipped over or stuck or otherwise like that, you can press the key that will recover your car, but the game will charge you a fee for doing that. And as you can see there, you'll get bonuses for doing things like head-on bonuses. There's all sorts of little challenges you can achieve for running over pedestrians in certain ways. There's bonus for artistic impression. There's pile driver bonuses. There's all this other stuff like that will allow you to get additional points and additional time based on that. So those are your kind of options, and that's one of the things I really love about this game, is just the way it mixes a bunch of different systems together, and they all play together seamlessly, and you can sort of change your goal on the fly. So if you're trying to race and it's not working out so well for you, you can go after your opponents. You can also see there these little barrels that I'm running over. A lot of the maps, I've only seen little bonuses so far, but a lot of the maps have different barrels you can run over that give you different abilities. So some of them are weapon abilities, some of them are weird things that like make your car jump around. Some of them are actually things that are bad for you and will actually hurt you. There we go, some extra style. So you can actually get some stuff that will harm you and actually make life more difficult for you. But there's stuff that will like glue pedestrians to the ground, that will give like crazy heavy gravity to the level. And these are all time limited, but they allow you to sort of mix things up. It's like a weird twisted Mario Kart type system almost, which I always thought was really, really cool. Now, you may wonder, well, if I want to play this game a certain way and the AI that I'm playing against here wants to play it another way, how the heck is that going to work? If I'm choosing to go around killing pedestrians and the AI is running the checkpoints, wouldn't I just lose very quickly? Well, yes and no. So the AI in this game tries to sort of adapt itself to how you're playing, and that's both good and bad. So if you're trying to run, basically if you start off trying to run the checkpoints, the AI will generally try to run the checkpoints, and you've kind of seen it doing this here. If you verge off the beaten path, this guy's stuck. It's really hurting. If you verge off the beaten path and start trying to either wreck other guys or mow over pedestrians or things like that, the AI will kind of gently follow you and try to keep working on that with you. I want to waste one of these guys. Unfortunately, this early in the game, when your car is not upgraded, some of this stuff can be rather time-consuming. So in general, the AI will try to adapt itself to provide you a challenge with whatever you're doing, but also not to just steamroll past you. Because obviously, there we go. Vlad wasted. Suck it, Vlad. So, because that would kind of suck, right? If you were playing the game to do things a certain way and the AI was doing it another way, that kind of breaks the whole thing, right? So that's kind of cool that the AI does allow you to play however you want, but it's also not great in that the AI in this game, well, it's not the brightest light in the factory, shall we put it that way. That was a terrible analogy, but so it's not totally stupid. Ah, bugger. So there we go. So you see I lost $2 grand there for having to recover. So the AI, I've seen worse, but I've also seen, damn it, I've also seen a lot better. And the problem is that it sort of tries to gently follow you along, but it's not very good at it. If you're doing anything other than racing the checkpoints, it will tend to just kind of meander about. And you saw there, you know, occasionally it was trying to attack me, but not really. Son of a bitch. And when you're trying to, especially to go after pedestrians and stuff, it really doesn't do that. All it really ever does is focus on taking you out. Because obviously you don't want to have to spend the time of going through and killing 228 pedestrians and have the AI randomly run over the last one and win the race, right? So that's the way it kind of works, and that's kind of a bummer. This game actually did have network play. I don't know if this emulated version works on a network. It probably does if you really screw around with it, but that was kind of the fun way to play this game, was to get a bunch of friends together. I only ever did it once or twice, I think. But if you get a bunch of friends together, you could just screw around and sort of have fun. I mean, this was a game kind of like the Grand Theft Auto games. Like, I've heard a bunch of statistics saying that for as in-depth and story-heavy and everything as the Grand Theft Auto games are, very few people actually finish those games, because the majority of people who buy that series buy it just to screw around in the world, you know, to run people over, get the cops after them, do all this crazy stuff. And that's what a lot of people did with a game like this as well. They really just got it to mess about, not to really take it seriously. And I would say that was a lot of the appeal in this. I mean, I never beat this game when I was a kid, mostly just because I liked to, I like to mess about. Mostly try to take out pedestrians in creative ways and things like that. I think I actually used cheat codes, too, that would, like, take all the AI players out, so you could just sort of drive around and do whatever you wanted, stuff like that. And as you can see, the maps in this are obviously kind of ridiculous too. You've actually, the maps have loop-de-loops and things that are obviously not realistic at all. This game is not trying to be no simulator, and it is all the better for that, without a doubt. But that's kind of the basics of it. You'll go through the career, you'll get into, you know, increasingly more complicated maps. You'll have an opportunity to upgrade your car and buy more cars, and your goal is really just to try to complete the races. You got to win them. There is no second places in Carmageddon. I think I'm going to take out this last guy, and that's how we're going to finish this race off. And you want to do it and earn as much money as possible so that you can get as much upgrades as possible and, you know, sort of make yourself the Uber car. But as you can see, there's a lot of variety here, and like I said, the sense of humor in this game is unbelievably juvenile and stupid, but it's endearing in its own way. Like, this is a game that's incredibly dumb, but it knows it's dumb, and it owns it. And that's what I really like. I don't have a problem with games being dumb as immature, as long as they don't think there's something better than that. And this game most certainly does it. Stainless knew exactly what they were making with this, and they ran with it, which I think I liked quite a bit. Obviously, from a technical standpoint, this version of the game doesn't necessarily hold up super well, but it still plays great. Like, I've still had a lot of fun with this. Let's see if I can do it. Just push him up and flip him over. Hi! Bet that fly's gonna kill him. No, it's not. Cunning stunt bonus. Oh, yeah. But the gameplay is still very good. The cars definitely are heavy and floaty. It definitely feels like an older school racing game, but you get used to it pretty well. I'm playing it with the keyboard. It plays fine that way. I don't know, this game did have joystick support as it were, but I don't know how well it works with modern controllers. There we go. So I won by every opponent wasted. I made a good amount of profit. And you see you get a bonus for completing as well as the time left on the clock. So I had a lot of time left on the clock. So this is going to actually be pretty profitable for me, which is pretty cool. And that's the gist of it. It's gory, graphic, hyper graphic, visceral car combat, and it allows you to play things a certain way or different ways depending on how you want to go about it. And it does stupid crap like this because why not? And that's what I really like, is that it allows you to play it different ways, and the fact is, in order to get the upgrades you want, you will have to grind a lot. You will have to run some races over multiple times. But because you can approach each race in different ways, it doesn't have to be the same race twice. You can choose to mix and match things however you want, which I think is a really, really smart way to go about it, and makes it really interesting and just different. I like Twisted Metal, don't get me wrong. Twisted Metal was a good game, but Twisted Metal was generally a very focused thing. It was, here's all the guys, let's check out another track here. It was, here's all the guys, go kill them all, and do it with cool weapons. This is race them, kill them, or kill other things. And I think that's pretty cool. Oh, and here we go, you've been challenged. Take my place, don't worry, I'll be right behind you. Yeah, you get these sometimes, I think, which is, yeah, they're dares. So basically, I've been challenged. And so the interesting part about this game is, you know how most racing games tend to start you at the back of the pack, and most people always really hate that? Well, this is a game where you generally want to start at the back of the pack, because being at the front means that everybody's going to be gunning for you right off the mark. So what that was there was a challenge, which basically says, hey, I dare you to take my place. So a guy wanted to trade his place at the front of the pack with me at the back of the pack. So I'm putting a bigger target on my arse, but I forget what you get for completing those challenges, but I believe you do get something for winning that. So, you know, weird stuff like that. That's what was really cool about this, and it's a game that's dripping with personality, and There was nothing like it at the time. When this game came out, there was nothing that did stuff as advanced as this did. It looks downright dated now, but this was technically pretty impressive at the time. It was controversial, and much like Grand Theft Auto did, it masterfully rode that controversy all the way to the bank. While censors were screaming about how evil this game was, all it did was make everybody want to go out and buy it. And they did. This game sold over 2 million copies, and it spawned a sequel that also did pretty well. And then Carmageddon TDR 2000 came out, which was horrible and basically killed the series. And at one point in time, there was supposed to be a Carmageddon 4 that ended up getting canceled by, I think they were still SCI. I don't think they'd merged with Eidos at that point. But then, yeah, Stainless Games managed to get the money to buy the Carmageddon franchise back, and we have Carmageddon Reincarnation, which is the other video that's up right now. So, Reincarnation just came out. So, if you want to see what a modern crowd-funded interpretation of this game looks like, definitely go check that video out. But this is it's a lot like this game in terms of its mechanics, so I thought it was better to get those out of the way here and also sort of show this series for what it was when it first came out. So this is sort of the idea there. In my video about Reincarnation, we're going to be talking a little bit more about that version specifically and some of the changes they made and some of the potential challenges and pitfalls that that new version has. Sadly, there are several of them. But honestly, this version still holds up really well, and you can get it in a number of different ways. As I said, you can get this and Carmageddon 2, Carpocalypse Now, get it? From GOG.com. If you use the links in the description below the video, a tiny little piece of your purchase goes to help support my channel, which I would appreciate very much. You can get these on Steam as well, and the Steam versions work fine, though because these games run in very low resolution, the Steam overlay looks a little weird in them, but they still work fine. Carmageddon TDR 2000 is also up on Steam, but you don't want that. Trust me. Maybe I'll do another video on that someday, but you don't want that. Trust me. But yeah, that is Carmageddon, developed by Stainless Games, at the time known as Stainless Software, and published by Sales Curve Interactive in 1997. This is the DOS version. It is also available on Windows, and there's console versions, but I don't recommend those because they're very, very poor impersonators of this game. But it's still a lot of fun. This game still holds up really well. Maybe not from a technical standpoint, but from a gameplay standpoint, it's still A1. And these modern re-releases are handled pretty well. So if you're into a good, gory, fun sort of screw-about car combat game, I highly recommend this. This is one of my favorite games from when I was a teenager, and I still see a lot of fun in it now. And well, if you want the 2015 version of this, check out my other video that's up right now on Carmageddon Reincarnation. So yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. It does help me out a great deal. And as I said, if you do want to get this game yourself, please use the GOG link in the description below the video. That would help me out a lot as well. And, well, I'll see you guys next time, or maybe in just a couple minutes for Carmageddon Reincarnation. Take it easy, guys.